Imagine waking up every morning feeling like you're already running a race you never signed up for. Your heart is pounding, your mind racing, and you haven't even gotten out of bed yet. For many people, this is what living with anxiety feels like. And today, I want to take you on a personal journey through the highs, lows, struggles, and quiet victories that come with it. Hey there, and welcome back to Behind Your Mind. I'm really happy you're here today, because what we're about to dive into is something that touches so many of us. Whether it's you, someone you love, or someone you haven't met yet but will someday. Today, we're talking about living with anxiety. But not just the clinical terms or textbook definitions. We're talking about the real, messy, beautiful experience of surviving it day by day. So, grab your favorite drink, find a cozy spot, and let's journey through this together. There was a time in my life when every day felt like walking through a dense, heavy fog. Everything around me seemed normal. The sun still rose, people still laughed, life went on. But inside, it was like I was carrying a backpack filled with invisible bricks. Fear, doubt, worry, guilt, and this endless feeling that something bad was just about to happen, even when everything seemed fine. If you've ever felt like your body is bracing for impact, even when there's no crash, you know exactly what I mean. Looking back, the signs were there long before I ever understood what was happening. It started with little things, staying up all night worrying about conversations I had earlier, feeling sick before big events, overthinking small mistakes until they felt like massive failures. At first, I thought I was just being careful, or just a little stressed out. But the truth is, anxiety isn't just stress. It's a persistent, gripping force that changes how you experience everything. You start living life not in the moment, but always 2 steps ahead. Trying to anticipate, avoid, prevent. It's exhausting. One insight I wish I had known earlier is that anxiety often tries to convince you that if you can just control everything, your schedule, your relationships, your emotions, you'll finally feel safe. But here's the hard truth. Anxiety feeds off control. The more you try to control, the more you realize how little you actually can. And that gap between wanting control and facing the unpredictability of life is where anxiety grows. Accepting uncertainty doesn't make you weak. It's actually one of the strongest things you can do. Let me tell you about a typical morning from my worst days with anxiety. The alarm would ring, and my first thought wasn't about breakfast or the weather. It was dread. A heavy, overwhelming dread. What if today something goes wrong? What if I mess up? What if everyone realizes I'm not good enough? I would replay imaginary disasters in my head while brushing my teeth. Check my phone obsessively, just in case something bad had happened overnight. Then, I'd plaster on a smile, show up at work, and pretend everything was fine. Inside, though, it felt like trying to keep a balloon underwater, that constant, exhausting pressure to seem okay when you feel like you're drowning. Here's something I didn't realize until much later. Living with anxiety teaches you strength, but not the flashy, dramatic kind. It's the quiet strength of showing up even when you're scared. It's the courage of getting through a meeting when your hands are trembling. It's the bravery of reaching out for help when every part of you wants to isolate. Anxiety forces you to build muscles you didn't know you had. Resilience, empathy, patience. You learn to listen to yourself, to others. You learn that surviving bad days doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong in ways most people can't even see. Another important insight. Anxiety isn't always panic attacks and crying in bathrooms. Sometimes, anxiety looks like being the perfect student, the always reliable coworker, the super organized friend. Anxiety wears many masks. Some people are fighting the hardest battles you can't even see because they've gotten so good at hiding it. That's why compassion for ourselves and others is so critical. I remember the moment I realized I couldn't do it alone anymore. It was a random Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in my car after work, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. I couldn't bring myself to drive home because my mind was spinning with fear about, well, everything. I sat there for almost an hour, trapped in my own mind. Finally, I whispered to myself, I think I need help. And that was the beginning of real change. Walking into a therapist's office for the first time was terrifying. I kept thinking, What if they think I'm crazy? What if they can't help me? But therapy wasn't about labeling me. It was about understanding me. Learning that anxiety is part of me, but it's not all of me. It doesn't define who I am. It doesn't mean I'm broken. It means I'm human. And humans are beautifully, courageously messy. Over time, I built a little toolbox of coping strategies that made a world of difference. Simple things like deep breathing exercises, grounding techniques like naming 5 things I can see, for I can touch, etc. Journaling my fears to get them out of my head. Setting boundaries to protect my energy. None of these cured my anxiety, but they made it manageable. They gave me room to breathe again. They reminded me that even when anxiety showed up, I didn't have to let it drive the car. One of the hardest parts of living with anxiety is how it affects the people around you. At first, I didn't even realize it. I thought I was protecting my friends and family by keeping my struggles to myself. But anxiety has a way of creeping into every conversation, every plan, every relationship. Sometimes it shows up as canceling plans last minute because the idea of socializing feels overwhelming. Sometimes it's snapping at someone you love because your brain is already so overloaded that the tiniest thing tips you over. And sometimes it's isolating yourself, not because you don't care, but because you're too exhausted from fighting invisible battles all day long. Learning to communicate honestly about my anxiety was terrifying at first, but it taught me a valuable truth. The right people won't run away. The right people will stay. They may not always understand exactly what you're going through, but they'll try. And that makes all the difference. Another thing I learned is that anxiety isn't a straight line. It's more like ocean waves. Some days, you'll feel almost normal, maybe even joyful, free, light. And other days, it'll crash into you without warning, dragging you under. And that's okay. Healing isn't about never feeling anxious again. It's about building a life where you can feel anxiety and still live fully. It's about knowing that a bad day doesn't mean you're back at square one. It's just a bad day. And there will be better days, too. For a long time, I thought my anxiety defined me. I saw myself as the anxious one, the overthinker, the worrier. But slowly I realized, I am not my anxiety. Anxiety is something I experience, like rain on a stormy day, but it's not who I am. I am someone who feels deeply. Someone who notices small details. Someone who cares so much that sometimes it feels overwhelming. These traits aren't flaws. They are parts of me that deserve love, not shame. Here's an insight that shifted everything for me. Anxiety is often a form of sensitivity to risk, to emotion, to change. And sensitivity, when honored and balanced, is a gift. It means you pick up on moods others miss. It means you anticipate problems before they explode. It means you are deeply connected to the world around you. The goal isn't to fix that sensitivity. It's to learn how to use it without letting it drown you. There have been many times when I thought I was over my anxiety, only to have it slam back into my life. A stressful job, a major life change, even just a particularly tough week. And suddenly, the old fears would creep back. In the past, I used to see these setbacks as proof that I had failed. But now, I see them differently. Setbacks aren't failures. They're reminders. Reminders to return to the tools that work. Reminders to slow down, breathe, and reconnect with myself. Healing is not linear, and that's not just okay, it's normal. One of the hardest lessons, and most important ones, was learning self-compassion. For so long, I thought being hard on myself would make me better. That criticizing myself for being anxious would force me to toughen up. But healing came not from harshness, but from kindness. It came from saying things to myself like, "It's okay to feel this way. You're doing the best you can. You are not alone." Self-compassion isn't weakness. It's the foundation of resilience. Maybe the biggest lie anxiety tells us is that we're broken, that there's something fundamentally wrong with us. But you are not broken. You are responding bravely to a world that can often be overwhelming, fast, uncertain, and demanding. Your brain is doing its best to protect you, even if it sometimes gets it wrong. You are not defective. You are human. And being human means sometimes feeling scared, vulnerable, overwhelmed. It's okay. When you live with anxiety, even the smallest victories are huge. Getting out of bed on a hard day? Victory. Making that phone call you've been dreading? Victory. Choosing to rest instead of spiraling into guilt? Victory. We often think only the big wins, promotions, breakthroughs, awards, count. But when you live with anxiety, celebrating small wins is what builds momentum and hope. Small steps create real change. Living with anxiety isn't about finding a one-time solution. It's about building daily practices that support you. Whether it's meditation, therapy, journaling, exercise, breathing exercises, whatever helps you feel grounded, even for a few minutes a day matters. Consistency over perfection. Progress over performance. Healing is something you weave into your life, day by day, breath by breath. Living with anxiety isn't easy. It tests you. It humbles you. It shapes you. But it also connects you to others, to compassion, to the incredible strength within yourself. You learn that survival isn't just about white-knuckling through the fear. It's about finding meaning even in the struggle. It's about discovering that you are more resilient, more courageous, more alive than you ever knew. Before we wrap up today's story, I want to leave you with a simple reminder. If you are living with anxiety, you are not alone. Your story matters. Your feelings are valid. And you have so much more strength within you than you may realize. I'd love to hear from you, truly. Have you experienced any of the moments we talked about today? What does living with anxiety look like for you? Feel free to share your story or your reflections in the comments. Let's build a space where we can connect, encourage, and remind each other that healing is a journey, not a destination. And if you found this episode helpful or comforting, please consider giving it a like, subscribing to Behind Your Mind, and hitting the bell so you don't miss future episodes. Every little bit of support helps this community grow, and you never know who else might need to hear these words today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for showing up for yourself. Behind Your Mind is a space created for sharing experiences, insights, and encouragement related to mental health. However, it is not a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are struggling with anxiety, mental health challenges, or any emotional distress, I strongly encourage you to seek help from a qualified mental health professional. You deserve support, guidance, and care tailored just for you. Take care of yourself. You're worth it. And hey, if this episode helped you understand yourself or someone else just a little better, please consider subscribing, liking, or just sharing this with someone who might need it. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and remember, I'm right here with you, behind your mind.